Did you all know that Anne Frank was queer? So, for those who don't know, and like no judgment, Anne Frank was a Jew in hiding in World War II. She lived in an attic with her family that included two parents and her sister. She was 13 years old when they first moved into the attic, and there were four other people. She lived there for 2 years, and anyway, spoiler, she was found, and they published her diary that she was writing while she was in the attic. So this diary, I remember it being assigned in schools. I don't remember it being assigned to me, but I remember hearing about reading it, being assigned it, what was in it, like in general learning about Anne Frank, but I don't remember reading it. And I was kind of always glad that I never got assigned it because I thought, like, why would I want to read this 13-year-old's diary? First of all, it's probably dumb kid shit, right? Like, I don't want to hear it. And then second, it's private. That feels really, really weird. Like if I was 14, would I really want to? And then it goes into like, well, she's dead and this is history. Um, and I would like sort of argue this in my own head. And then I thought, well, should I read it before I have an opinion? Should I even just like read it a little bit? But here's a little bit of it. I'm reading it right now. I'm only 60% of the way through. I do know how it ends, though. She writes, "Who else but me is ever going to read this letter? Who else but me can I turn to for comfort? I'm frequently in need of why am I squinting here? I'm frequently in need of consolation. I often feel weak and more often than not, I fail to meet expectations. I know this, and every day I resolve to do better." And so, I don't know, that's not what I was writing when I was 13, but I wasn't in the middle of a world war hiding for a couple of years. But she seemed to be a good writer from the beginning. And yeah, I figured I'm going to read this. I thought I would just read a couple of pages just to kind of see. And it turns out, I mean, I think it is what the reason why they assigned it is a lot of historical things. Like she really paints the picture of what it was like, and also she's a pretty great writer. Like I wonder if she would have been a writer had she lived through it. And what a weird thing knowing how this would end for her. It's very strange to read the book, but like I said, I'm 60% in, and one of the entries was these queer thoughts that she was having and experiencing. And I don't think it's a big deal to be queer. I'm queer, but I just think I remember when people were assigned this, and it was during a time where it was a big deal to be gay, to think of same-sex situations in the way that she was depicting. We had to come out. We had to worry that when we told people how we feel in these sexual ways that are really none of anyone's business, especially not like standing there and going, "Dear mom and dad, here's what I crave." Ew, ew. It was a time where you had to worry. Like I didn't want to tell any of my friends that I had thoughts like, yeah, I could see kissing a girl and being intimate with one, that I was afraid that they would think I was always hitting on them. It puts you, at least it did, and I think we've come a long way, but TV shows, when they had anything gay in it, it would be the entire episode. It would have to be a learning lesson. It was this big deal. A commercial that had a same-sex couple in it, people were just going bananas over it. Like, gay people use detergent the same as us. That can't be. I mean, and this is a historical figure. The reason why I'm like, wait, she was queer is because I think it would have been nice to have experienced something that our leaders and our teachers and parents and people who were in charge of us were just like, and we totally respect her and think this is normal and this isn't what we're going to be focused on. And I guess I'm thinking, like, does there have to be a world war? But no, because in that time, even if we were reading about a world war or something um, big like that, the gay part would still stand out. It would still need to be either addressed or hidden or whatever. But this is what she says. She says, I also had a terrible desire to kiss her, which I did. Every time I see a female nude, such as the Venus, in my art history book, I go into ecstasy. Sometimes I feel them so exquisite, I have to struggle to hold back my tears. If only I had a girlfriend. Now, she's 14 at this time because she had a birthday already. Yikes and yikes in an attic. But, we knew that going in. But how sweet is that? How, she had to confess this in her own diary. What I understand is that her father initially took some of that stuff out. So maybe I didn't hear about it because it wasn't normal, because it was taken out, or maybe he was doing it for her privacy, because just in general, hey, we're reading about a young girl. We don't maybe need to know this stuff. Um, I don't know. I think I'm glad that this isn't such a big deal. Coming out isn't such a big deal. Coming out is becoming less and less of a thing. I don't think that there should be things like coming out. Coming out of what? What are you talking about? I have to announce this. Can you imagine being straight and going, well, I decided penis is for me. So, um, let's have a party? Like what? Let's what? Why? What? Anyway, I do want to read a couple of other things from the book because, you know, she is in the middle of war. She is hiding. They have to be in the dark. They have to be very quiet. I mean, all the things that we knew, that I knew before reading it, that are obvious of people hiding in an attic during a war. But, some things would come out like this, like, this week I've been reading a lot and doing little work. That's the way things ought to be. That's surely the road to success. Again, sweet. Here's another one. Oh, so for a while it was her family and this other family who had, a father, son, a father, mother, and a son. And then this dentist moved in with them. So they decided that they had enough rations. They were able to, the people hiding them, and they were able to share with one other person, make space for one other person. And they decided on this dentist. The dentist was with, I think, a girlfriend or a wife. She was Christian, so she was safe. They had to separate, and he moved into the attic. And they were so happy to be able to save one other person. Anyway, so he came in with an outside perspective. They'd been hearing some of the stuff that's going on outside, and in general, they know, but he came in with these awful stories of what's happening, and more current ones, and he was out in the world. So she writes, once we've had time to digest the news, we'll probably go back to our usual joking and teasing. It won't do us or those outside any good if we continue to be as gloomy as we are now. And what would the point of turning the secret annex into a melancholy annex? What would be the point of turning the secret annex into a melancholy? Why, I cannot say that word. But how brave it is to think that way, and also how articulate, how philosophical, how zen in the middle of turmoil. Here's other things that I highlighted. This is just an interesting sentence from a young girl. With faces that are either grim or good-humored, depending on the mood of their husbands. She's oftentimes describing how the adults behave, and that's really interesting perspective from, like, as an adult, how much kids can see and how much they can process and how much they're seeing through or seeing clearly. Here's another one. P.S. Will the reader please take into consideration that this story was written before the writer's fury had cooled? So sweet. Uh, okay, so here's some dark stuff. The atmosphere is stifling, sluggish, leaden. Outside, you don't hear a single bird, and a deathly oppressive silence hangs over the house and clings to me as if it were going to drag me into the deepest regions of the underworld. At times like these, Father, Mother, and Margot don't matter to me in the least. I wander from room to room, climb up and down the stairs, feel like a songbird whose wings have been ripped off and who keeps hurling itself against the bars of its dark cage. Let me out where there's fresh air and laughter. A voice within me cries. I don't even bother to reply anymore, but lie down on the divan. Divan? Sleep makes the silence and the terrible fear go by more quickly. Helps pass the time, since it's impossible to kill it. Boy, I ruined it, Anne. I'm sorry. And just a couple more. Here's another dark one. I've always been the clown and mischief maker in the family. I've always had to pay double for my sins. My God, excuse me. Let's start over. I've always been the clown and mischief maker of the family. I've always had to pay double for my sins. Once with scoldings, and then again with my own sense of despair. What? Who is this little teenager? I think that we forget that kids have full thoughts and some of them are able to process and articulate so well. And also, this was a different time where I think we were articulating a lot younger, and we were a little more mature. She's still a kid, though. Here's something that's a little bit lighter. My writing has raised me somewhat from the depths of despair. So I've been talking about getting rid of my diary. I know that my diary is nowhere near something like this that anyone would want to publish, but she took it very, very seriously. She wrote every day. She wrote the date. There are some times where she would review the diary and then write notes. So we got the notes as well, like from a different date that she would review them. I find this book very, very interesting. Sometimes I have to admit I'm a little bored, but I also am not sure if that's my attention span lowering. I haven't been enjoying reading as much as I used to, and not just because of this book. I know that this is quite the topic. I could see why people wouldn't be excited to read it. But I'm also reading another book simultaneously, and I don't mind reading a third as well. I think my attention has to be taken off the scrolling for long enough, and the oh, I have to go to work and I have to do this. I have to stay present enough, and I'm struggling with that a little bit right now. But other than that, I'm always floored by how young she is, how articulate, and how no matter what, like when I hear words like World War II, Holocaust, millions of people dying, millions, 6 million just Jews, but there were millions of other people as well. And still I can read this and go, oh my goodness, like just the reality of the day-to-day of it, and how she maintains, like, she's 2 years up in an attic. Anyway, I don't know that I'd be telling anyone anything that they didn't know, except I do wonder what it would be like to read this when we were at the same age, which was around the time that it was assigned to us. So I wonder what it would have been like for me to read it when I was 13 or 14. Now I wish I did. I just thought of it, like, to read a diary that, when I was talking about my diary in a different video, I talked about how I hid even from myself. I exaggerated some stuff. I knew that that's not what I felt. I wrote in poetry to hide it. And for her to write it out as if no one's reading it. And then we went and read it. But it would have helped me at 14, maybe loosen up a little bit, or maybe, get a lock and key or something so that I can write more realistically and more um, straightforward in the expression. Um, is it a main regret? It's just, it's while I'm here at the age of 50 looking back, there's so much that is clear that I have to be careful to start regretting things, and I know that we're just going off this book that I didn't read when I was 14, but I can do that with all of the ages and all of the different decisions that I made. And I'm trying to look back with a little compassion for myself. Again, not just for this. It just made me think of all this other stuff. So just at 50, I think it's very regular to explore the past, the history, the decisions, and then I need to then go, okay, that happened. What's happening right now? Let me live in this and only look back like it's a rearview mirror. Anyway, thanks for listening to my reflection. I would love it if you shared the channel with other people, let people know who you think would be interested, and to hit the subscribe button yourself, write a comment. All of that stuff is very encouraging to me. So I appreciate it. Thank you for listening.